Welcome to your deep dive. It seems like from the excerpts you chose from Rick Warren's The Purpose-Driven Life, you're really grappling with some big questions about
Yeah.
life. We're
Yeah.
not going to just kind of like touch on these things.
No,
We are going to like really plunge,
dive.
deep dive into purpose worship and what it means to live a life of true meaning.
What I think is so fascinating about Warren's approach is how he brings together biblical teachings with like stories and practical steps.
Yeah.
He doesn't just want you to like read the book,
Right.
He wants you to have an experience.
Okay, so let's jump right into this core question. Why are we here?
Right.
The book kind of pushes back on that whole self-help thing that says it's all about us.
Right.
Instead, Warren says it's about aligning ourselves with God's plan.
I think that's a really hard concept for people.
Yeah, but how do we even like begin to grasp something that big?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's where the compass analogy that Warren uses, I think, is so helpful.
Yeah.
We're like ships just out there without a reference point,
Lost at sea.
lost at sea.
Yeah.
We can be super successful, but still completely miss the point if we're not oriented towards God's true north.
Okay, I get that. But
Mhm.
this whole idea about our purpose being to bring joy to God, does God really need us to
Yeah.
be happy? I mean, it's a beautiful concept,
It is beautiful.
but it's hard to wrap my head around it.
Yeah, I don't think it's that God needs our happiness.
Right.
I think what Warren is getting at is that God created emotions,
Oh.
so he experiences them too.
Okay.
And he delights in a certain kind of joy.
Uh-huh.
The joy that comes from like a deep, trusting relationship with him.
Okay.
It's not blind obedience, it's love
Okay.
that finds its fulfillment in pleasing him.
So it's like when you see someone you love flourish, you
Yeah.
know, like using their gifts to their full potential,
Well, yeah,
it brings a certain joy.
absolutely. Warren even compares it to
Yeah.
the joy a parent feels watching their kid thrive.
Yeah.
It's not about performance or meeting some standard. It's about love.
Okay, so if that's the foundation,
Yeah.
how does worship fit into all this?
Right.
The book goes deep on what genuine worship looks like,
Yeah.
and it's more than just singing in church.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
Warren paints this picture of worship as the complete surrender of our lives to God, like
Yeah.
pouring out ourselves
Wow.
in every way.
That's a challenging concept.
It is challenging.
Yeah, it makes me think.
Yeah.
Am I really surrendering everything?
Yeah.
Or am I kind of holding on to control?
Yeah. I think those are questions all of us wrestle with.
Yeah.
And true surrender isn't about losing ourselves. It's
Yeah.
about finding true freedom.
Okay.
It's about aligning our will
Yeah.
with God's will because his ways are better.
Okay, but how do we actually do that?
Right.
You know? It feels so abstract.
I know.
Yeah.
And I love that Warren brings in this example of Brother Lawrence,
Oh, yeah.
who was a cook,
Yeah.
but he turned even the most like
Ordinary.
ordinary tasks,
Yeah.
washing dishes,
Yeah.
chopping veggies,
Right.
into acts of worship.
That's a beautiful image.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that quote from Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
Not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's not about the big gestures. It's about the constant, quiet offering
Yeah.
of our lives to God,
Moment by moment.
moment by moment.
Yeah. This reminds me of another powerful theme in the book. The idea of developing a friendship with God.
Yeah.
You know?
It's powerful.
Warren talks about constant conversation through prayer,
Yeah.
reflecting on his word,
Right.
being honest about our doubts.
I think that honesty piece is so important
Yeah.
because he's emphasizing authenticity.
Yeah.
It's not about pretending.
Yeah, because let's be real.
Yeah, who are we kidding?
God knows it all.
He knows it all.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
We can just come as we are.
Yep.
With all our flaws.
Imperfect.
Imperfect.
Yeah.
And be loved.
It makes me rethink what it means to be religious.
It's less about rules and more about a heart connection.
Yeah. But where does the community aspect fit into this?
Right.
Warren's big on the church thing.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And I think it comes down to the fact that we're not meant to go it alone,
Right. Yeah.
We need each other.
We need support.
Support, encouragement, and to grow together.
I was thinking about that African proverb.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to go fast, go alone.
Right.
If you want to go far,
go together.
go together.
That's where the church comes in.
That's where it fits.
It's a place of support.
Okay, so we've got this foundation, aligning ourselves with God's plan,
Yeah.
surrendering to him in worship, connecting with him through prayer
Love.
and his word.
Yes.
But it can't stop there, right?
No.
We're not just supposed to sit in a holy huddle
Yeah, man.
and just absorb it all.
Right.
There's got to be more.
And that's where the next point comes in.
Yeah.
We're created to become like Christ.
No, that's intriguing, but how do we even begin to grasp that? I mean, Jesus walked on water,
Right.
raised people from the dead.
Yeah.
How can we possibly measure up?
I think what Warren's focused on here is less about the miracles
Right.
and more about the transformation of our character.
So it's about cultivating those qualities.
Those qualities
Yeah.
that marked Jesus's life.
Like love.
Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness,
Self-control.
all the fruits of the Spirit.
Yeah, those are the qualities that should mark our lives too.
So it's not about becoming superhuman.
Right.
It's about becoming more human.
More human.
More like Jesus.
More like the human Jesus was.
Okay, that feels more attainable.
Yeah.
But still, how?
That's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
It's not about waiting for some magical transformation.
Right.
It's about cooperating with the Holy Spirit.
Making choices that align with God's will.
Yeah.
And developing those Christ-like habits.
But where does our effort fit in?
Right.
Warren talks a lot about the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
But is it all God? Or do we have a role?
It's both.
Oh.
You know, it's like learning an instrument.
Yeah.
God provides the instrument and the instruction manual.
Right.
But we've got to practice.
Okay, so it's a partnership.
It's a partnership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But there's this other element that Warren brings in
Yeah.
that I find fascinating and kind of daunting at the same time.
Yeah.
That God uses tough times to shape us.
Yeah, Warren's perspective on suffering is so insightful.
Yeah.
He doesn't shy away from the hard stuff.
No, he doesn't.
You know, he acknowledges that we're going to face trials.
Right.
But he says, see those trials as opportunities for growth.
Not as punishments?
Not as punishments.
But like that quote,
Yeah.
what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yes, but sometimes it feels like it's going to kill you.
I know, right?
But Warren encourages us to ask, what do you want me to learn from this God?
Okay.
Rather than why me?
That is a powerful shift.
It is.
Yeah. Instead of seeing trials as obstacles to avoid,
Right.
we can see them as opportunities to draw closer to God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where the transformation happens.
That's where the growth happens.
Yeah, in the fire.
Okay, so we're called to become more like Christ.
Yes.
But what does that look like
Yeah.
in everyday life?
Right.
You know, it's easy to get caught up in the big ideas,
Yeah.
but how do we translate that into action?
Well, and that's where Warren's next purpose comes in,
Oh.
shaped for serving God.
Okay.
He's saying, look, you're not just meant to be blessed.
Yeah.
You're meant to be a blessing.
So it's not about what's in it for me.
Yeah.
It's about,
How can I make a difference?
okay.
And it's not about grand gestures either.
Yeah.
Even the smallest acts of kindness
Right.
done with love can have a ripple effect.
So it's less about what we do and more about why we do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about having a servant's heart.
Okay. I can get behind that.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, I'm not always sure what my shape for serving is.
Yeah. How do I know what I'm good at?
Yeah. What are my gifts?
Yeah.
How does God want to use me?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And Warren encourages us to look at our talents,
Okay.
abilities, and experiences and think about how God might be calling us to use them.
So it's about discovering
Yeah.
how our unique wiring
Our wire.
aligns with God's purposes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not a one-time discovery, though.
Right. It's an ongoing thing.
It's an ongoing process.
Yeah. This conversation has given me a lot to think about.
Yeah, me too.
It feels like we've barely scratched the surface,
I
but
know.
I'm already feeling a shift in my perspective.
That's the beauty of the purpose-driven life.
Yeah.
It keeps on giving.
Yeah. The more we dig into it.
The more we discover about ourselves,
Yeah.
about God,
Yeah.
and about this amazing plan he has.
Yeah. We've covered a lot of ground already,
We have.
but we're not done yet.
Not even close.
There's so much more to unpack
So much more.
in the purpose-driven life.
Yeah.
Join us in part 2 of this deep dive
Yes.
as we continue exploring the practical implication
And practical implication.
of living out our God-given purpose.
I can't wait.
Me too.
It's going to be good.
It is.
Welcome back to your deep dive into the purpose-driven life.
Yeah.
You know, in the last part, we talked about the importance of community. and how that
Yes.
plays a vital role in living out our purpose.
Yeah, and I'm still thinking about that whole idea of aligning ourselves with God's plan,
Right.
surrendering to Him in worship,
Yeah.
and really cultivating that deep friendship with Him.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But there's this other concept that Warren introduces that I
Blech.
found really interesting, the idea that life on Earth is a test.
Okay, a test.
Yeah,
I'm not sure I like the sound of that.
I know.
What kind of test are we talking about here? Like pop quiz on Bible verses?
Not quite.
Okay.
Think of it more like a
Right.
series of challenges and choices
Okay.
designed to reveal our character.
Okay.
God is always watching how we handle situations.
Oh, it's not
The
about
good, the bad, everything in between.
right. So it's not about like tricking us or setting us up for failure.
No, no.
It's about using those experiences to mold us
Exactly.
into who He created us to be.
Yeah. Warren uses this analogy of a sculptor
Okay.
carefully chiseling away at a block of stone
Okay.
to reveal the beauty inside.
I like that.
That's what God does with us.
He chips away at our rough edges.
Yes. Using the challenges of life.
Yeah. But what about those times when life throws a curveball
Right.
that feels more like a wrecking ball
Yeah, those are tough.
than a chisel?
I know.
But how do we reconcile that with a loving God?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
And I don't think there are any easy answers.
Right.
But Warren reminds us that God never gives us more than we can handle.
Okay. So it's not about avoiding suffering altogether. It's
Right.
about leaning into God's strength.
Exactly.
Okay.
Think about it this way. A weightlifter doesn't build muscle
Right.
by lifting feathers.
You got to lift something heavy.
Yeah. You got to push against resistance.
Okay, but this whole test analogy,
Yeah.
it makes me think about performance, being graded.
I don't think that's what it's about.
Okay.
It's less about earning God's approval
Right.
and more about understanding that our choices matter.
Okay. Our choices have consequences.
Exactly. Consequences both now and in eternity.
Okay. That brings up another point Warren makes.
Okay.
The idea that life is also a trust.
Yes.
Can you unpack that a little more?
Yeah. This is where the concept of stewardship comes in.
Okay.
It's a shift
Okay.
from seeing ourselves as owners to managers
Go.
of everything God has entrusted to us.
Okay. Oh, our time,
Our time, our talents,
our resources,
our resources,
our relationships.
even our relationships.
Okay, so it's not about building our own little empires. It's about using what we've been given.
To advance God's kingdom.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the big things.
Right.
It's about being faithful
In the small things.
in the small things.
Yeah.
How we manage our finances, how we treat others, how we use our time.
It's all part of being a good steward.
It is.
It makes me think of that verse in Luke.
Which one?
Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much.
Yes.
So it's about proving ourselves trustworthy.
In the small things.
So God can entrust us with greater things.
Exactly.
Okay, so life is a test. Life is a trust. Is there anything else I need to add to my worry list?
Actually, yes.
Oh, no.
But maybe worry isn't the right word.
Okay.
It's more about a shift in perspective.
Okay.
Recognizing that we are ambassadors
Okay, now you're speaking my language.
for Christ
I love a good analogy.
in a foreign land.
Tell me more.
Okay, so think about it this way.
Okay.
An ambassador represents their home country while living in another nation.
Okay.
Their primary allegiance is to their homeland,
Okay.
and their purpose is to reflect the values of that nation.
I see where you're going with this.
That's what we are as Christians,
Yeah.
ambassadors for Christ, representing his kingdom while living in this world.
Okay, so it's less about fitting in and more about standing out,
Yeah.
reflecting God's values, even when they go against the grain of the
Well, that's good.
culture around us.
It's about living with an eternal perspective,
Okay,
knowing that our true citizenship is in heaven
right.
and that God's approval is the only thing that matters.
Wow, it makes me think of all those early Christians who were persecuted for their faith. They knew they were living in a hostile world.
But they held on to their beliefs.
Yeah, even in the face of death.
That's the courage that comes from an eternal perspective.
Yeah,
Knowing that our lives here are temporary,
right.
but our souls are eternal.
Okay, so we're ambassadors, but what are we ambassadors for?
That's a good question.
What message are we supposed to be conveying?
I think it boils down to this.
Okay.
Living for God's glory.
Okay, so not about earning his favor.
No.
We're impressing others.
It's about living a life that honors him.
Okay, but how do we do that?
How do our actions bring glory to God?
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that God is the source of all that is good
Okay.
and that we owe him our gratitude, our worship and our obedience.
It's about reflecting his character and his love.
Yeah, through our words and actions.
I'm starting to see how this all ties together.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not just about personal piety or checking off religious to-do lists. It's about living in a way that makes God's goodness visible
Yeah.
to the world around us.
It's not just about what we do, but who we are.
Right.
As we become more like Christ,
Yeah.
we reflect God's glory more clearly.
But here's where I get tripped up.
Okay.
I don't always feel very glory reflecting.
Right.
I often feel like I'm falling short.
I think we all feel that way sometimes. But Warren has this interesting perspective on failure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he points out that the only two of God's creations that fail to bring him glory
Okay.
are fallen angels and us.
Wow. That's a sobering thought.
Yeah.
But I get it. We have a choice to make.
We do.
We can choose to live for our own glory.
Our own selfish ambitions.
Yeah, or we can choose to live for God's glory.
Surrendering our lives to his purposes.
And it's not a one-time choice.
No, it's a daily decision.
To align ourselves with God's will.
To seek his glory above our own.
And to allow him to work through us.
That's it.
Makes me think of that story Warren tells.
Which one?
About the young man who felt like a failure.
Uh-huh.
Because he was striving to become something, but he didn't even know what.
Yeah, he had no purpose.
Yeah, it's a powerful illustration of the emptiness.
Of life without purpose.
Yeah. When we don't know why we're here or what we're supposed to be doing.
It's easy to feel lost.
Lost, aimless, and unfulfilled.
Unfulfilled.
Yeah, I can relate to that feeling.
Yeah, me too.
But Warren is arguing that knowing our purpose,
Yes.
understanding why God created us,
Yeah.
is essential to living a truly meaningful life.
It's essential.
And he goes even further,
He does.
saying that hope is essential to life itself.
Without hope, it's hard to keep going.
Yeah, it's hard to find that motivation
That motivates.
to keep believing that things can get better.
Right.
Reminds me of that story about the doctor.
Well, yeah.
Who could predict which of his cancer patients would go into remission?
Just by asking if they wanted to live to be 100.
Right.
Yeah.
The patients who had a deep sense of purpose and hope,
They were the ones who survived.
they had something to live for.
They had a reason to fight.
So knowing our purpose,
Uh-huh.
understanding our place in God's plan,
Yes.
gives us a reason to hope.
Absolutely.
It gives us a reason to get out of bed in the morning.
It does.
A reason to keep going when things are tough.
And a reason to believe that our lives have meaning.
Okay, so purpose gives us hope, but how does that translate into everyday living? Right.
It's easy to get overwhelmed by the demands of life.
I know, work, family responsibilities.
How do we stay focused on what matters?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And Warren talks about that in the next part of the book.
Okay.
He says we need to focus our time and energy
On what truly matters.
on fulfilling God's purposes.
Yeah. And not get bogged down by distractions.
Or things that don't matter.
Okay, this is getting good.
It is.
I'm ready to hear more.
Me too.
But we'll have to save that for part 3 of our deep dive.
I can't wait.
Join us as we continue exploring the practical implications
Yes, the practical implications.
of living a purpose-driven life. Welcome back to our deep dive into Rick Warren's The Purpose-Driven Life. It's been a journey.
It has.
We've gone from aligning ourselves with God's plan and surrendering to Him in worship
Right.
to embracing the idea that life is a test and a trust.
Yeah, a lot to unpack.
In this last part, I'm excited to see how Warren brings it all together.
Yeah, me too. And challenges us to live out our purpose in a way that makes a real difference.
I think that's what people are really looking for.
Yeah, they want to know how to put this into practice.
Right, how to make it real.
So we've explored those first 4 purposes.
Right, planned for God's pleasure, formed for God's family, created to become like Christ-shaped for serving God.
What's the 5th purpose? And how does it connect to everything else?
The 5th purpose is made for a mission.
Okay.
A mission. And what's so cool is how Warren ties the previous 4 purposes into this.
Okay.
It's not just about our own transformation.
Right.
It's about taking what we've learned
Yeah.
and using it to impact the world.
Okay, tell me more about this mission.
Okay, so at its heart,
Yeah.
it's about sharing the good news of Jesus.
Oh, okay. With others.
Yeah. But Warren emphasizes that it's not just for pastors or missionaries.
Right.
It's for every believer.
Okay.
We're all called to be ambassadors.
They're ambassadors.
Sharing his love and truth.
Wow, that's a big responsibility.
It is.
And I have to admit,
Yeah.
yeah,
It feels a little intimidating sometimes.
I'll get it. Yeah.
I don't always feel equipped to share my faith.
Especially with people who have different beliefs.
Yeah. Or who are skeptical.
I think that's a common feeling.
Yeah.
But Warren gives some really practical advice
Oh,
on how to share our faith effectively.
okay.
He talks about the power of personal stories,
Oh.
sharing how God has worked in our lives.
Okay, so not like trying to win an argument
No,
or present some perfect version of ourselves.
it's about being real,
Yeah.
vulnerable, sharing our own experience
Okay.
of God's love and grace.
That makes sense.
People connect with stories.
I'm more comfortable sharing my story
Yeah,
than trying to explain theology.
right, exactly.
But even then, sometimes I don't know where to start.
He gives us a framework
Oh,
for our story, 4
Yeah.
parts.
okay.
What our life was like before we met Jesus,
Okay.
how we realized we needed him,
Okay.
how we committed our lives to him.
And the difference he's made.
That's helpful.
It
Gives me a place to start.
Yeah. A way to organize my thoughts.
Yeah. But what about those times when people just aren't open
That's tough.
to hearing about Jesus? Should we push it?
Well, there's no easy answer.
Right.
But Warren says be sensitive
Okay.
to the person you're talking to.
Right.
It's not about forcing our faith.
Yeah.
It's about sharing authentically and respectfully.
So meeting people where they are,
Exact.
having a real conversation.
Yeah, not just checking off a box.
Right. And we're not responsible for the results.
Right, we plant the seeds.
God gives the growth.
Exactly. And I love how Warren connects this to God's bigger plan.
Yeah.
We're part of something much bigger,
Wow.
and our actions have eternal significance.
That's powerful.
It is.
Makes me feel like my small life can actually contribute to something that lasts.
And Warren says, think beyond our own little world.
Okay.
Be a world-class Christian.
World-class Christian.
Pray for other nations, support missions.
Wow, that's a big vision.
It is.
It's easy to get caught up in our own little bubbles.
It is, but God's love is for everyone.
So we have a responsibility to share it.
Yes. And it starts with simple things.
Okay.
Praying for other countries,
Yeah.
reading the news with a Great Commission perspective,
Okay.
and supporting missions work.
Okay, this is all really inspiring.
It is.
But it's a lot to process.
I know.
How do we keep all these purposes straight?
Right. How do we prioritize?
Yeah, it's easy to feel overwhelmed.
Warren gives some practical advice
Okay.
on how to balance our lives
Okay.
in light of the 5 purposes.
Okay.
He says, regularly evaluate your life.
So like a spiritual checkup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Check your vital signs.
Okay, what are the vital signs?
He says, ask yourself these questions.
Okay.
Am I spending time with God?
Okay.
Am I connecting with other believers?
Okay.
Am I growing in my character?
Becoming more like Christ?
Yes.
Yes.
Am I using my gifts to serve others?
Okay.
And am I sharing my faith?
Okay, that's a good list. It is.
It gives me a way to assess how I'm doing.
And identify areas to work on.
He also talks about having a personal mission statement,
Yes.
a concise statement that sums up our purpose.
It's like a compass.
Yeah,
Points you in the right direction.
I love that idea.
Brings clarity and focus.
Yeah.
Make sure our actions align with our purpose.
Okay, so we're called to live out our purpose.
Yeah.
Share our faith.
Be part of God's plan.
But what about the legacy we leave behind?
Warren doesn't shy away from that topic.
Okay.
He says our lives have an impact beyond our lifetime.
Wow.
Think about what you want to be remembered for,
Okay.
what you want to pass on.
It's about making choices that have eternal impact,
Exactly.
not just focusing on the here and now.
Invest in relationships, mentor others,
Use our resources for eternal purposes.
and leave a written record of what God has taught us.
It's a big responsibility.
It is.
Warren emphasizes that throughout the book.
Yeah.
It's not just about discovering our purpose.
Right.
It's about passing it on to others.
Yeah.
He says knowledge increases responsibility.
The more we know.
The more we're responsible to share.
Wow, what a challenge.
It is.
It's not just about living a good life.
It's about leaving a legacy.
That inspires others to live out their purpose.
And he says it's a privilege
A privilege.
to be part of something bigger
To invest in eternity.
and make a lasting impact.
This has been an incredible journey,
It has
exploring the purpose-driven life.
so much wisdom.
It's challenged me, inspired me, given me a renewed sense of purpose.
Me too.
I'm so glad we did this.
Me too.
This deep dive has given me a lot to think about,
Yeah.
to pray about, and to act on.
I hope it's done the same for you.
Remember, you were created for a purpose.
You were.
God has a plan for your life.
A plan that's bigger than you can imagine.
You embrace your purpose. Live it out
And make a difference.
for the glory of God.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey.
Yeah.
God is with you every step of the way.
Guiding you, strengthening you,
Yeah.
empowering you.
To live a life of purpose and meaning.
This is your deep dive signing off.